The Galactic Military Academy's xenobiology lab fell silent as the transport cage was wheeled into the center of the room. Inside, a pair of Vorthak cubs, barely 3 months old, pressed against the reinforced bars with their razor-sharp claws, their bioluminescent stripes pulsing orange with distress. Cadet Barris felt his throat sac contract involuntarily. Even as juveniles, the Vorthak were apex predators from the death world of Kethmore, their species responsible for wiping out 2 entire civilizations before the Galactic Council managed to contain them to their home system. These cubs might only weigh 30 kilograms each, but their adult forms would grow to become 3-meter-tall killing machines capable of tearing through starship hulls with their bare claws. Today's exercise, announced Instructor Veltar, her cybernetic implants gleaming as she gestured toward the cage, is a diplomatic first contact scenario. These cubs were orphaned in a recent territorial dispute. Your mission is to establish peaceful communication and provide basic care until the transport to the rehabilitation center arrives. The 23 cadets from various species shifted uncomfortably. Barris noticed how his Alterian classmates' tentacles curled defensively, while the insectoid hive members clicked their mandibles in agitation. Even the usually confident Zentorian cadets seemed to shrink back from the cage. All except one. Melissa stepped forward with that peculiar human gait, confident yet somehow casual, as if she were approaching a friend rather than 2 creatures whose species had earned the classification extinction-level threat. Her brown hair was pulled back in the standard Academy regulation style, but her green eyes held that strange quality Barris had noticed in humans before, an almost reckless curiosity mixed with something that could only be described as compassion. "Ma'am," Melissa said, addressing the instructor, "what's their current stress level?" Instructor Veltar consulted her datapad. "Dangerously high. Their cortisol analog levels are through the ceiling. Standard protocol suggests we maintain a minimum distance of 5 meters and use remote feeding mechanisms." Melissa nodded, then did something that made every non-human cadet in the room take an involuntary step backward. She walked directly to the cage and sat down cross-legged in front of it, well within the cub's striking range. "Human Melissa," Barris hissed, his species' natural warning call escaping before he could stop it. "Those are Vorthak cubs. They can decapitate you even at that age." Melissa turned to give him a reassuring smile, that inexplicable human expression that somehow conveyed both confidence and kindness simultaneously. "I know what they are, Barris, but look at them. They're not angry. They're terrified." She was right. Now that Barris looked more carefully, he could see that the cubs' bioluminescent patterns weren't the aggressive red of attack mode, but rather the flickering orange-yellow of extreme distress. Their movements weren't predatory stalking, but the desperate pacing of trapped animals seeking escape. "Hey there, little ones," Melissa said softly, her voice taking on the same tone Barris had heard human parents use with their young. "I know you're scared. This place is strange and everything smells wrong, doesn't it?" The cubs stopped pacing, their great amber eyes, each the size of Melissa's fist, fixed on her with startling intelligence. "My species has a saying," Melissa continued, reaching slowly into her pack. "Actions speak louder than words, so let me show you something." She pulled out her lunch ration, standard Academy protein bars, and placed one on the ground between herself and the cage. Then, to everyone's astonishment, she took a bite of an identical bar, chewing slowly and visibly. "See, safe food. I'm not trying to poison you or hurt you. I'm just sharing a meal." One of the cubs approached the bars cautiously, its head tilted in a gesture that was almost dog-like in its curiosity. The other followed, their distress patterns slowly shifting toward the blue-green of cautious interest. "Human Melissa," Instructor Veltar said, her voice carrying a warning. "This is highly irregular. Vorthak cubs have killed trained xenobiologists with decades of experience." "Yes, ma'am," Melissa replied without taking her eyes off the cubs. "But they've never met a human before." She began to hum, a low, rhythmic sound that seemed to resonate in her chest. It wasn't a human song Barris recognized, but it had the quality of something ancient, something primal. A lullaby, perhaps, or a working song. The effect on the cubs was remarkable. Their bioluminescent patterns shifted completely, settling into the soft gold that Barris's xenobiology textbooks identified as contentment safety. One of them extended a massive paw through the bars, not in aggression, but in what looked remarkably like an attempt to touch the strange singing creature. Melissa slowly extended her own hand, allowing the cub's claws, each one capable of slicing through steel, to gently touch her palm. "That's it," she whispered. "We're not so different, are we? We both breathe. We both eat. We both get scared when we're alone in a strange place." The second cub made a sound, a low, thrumming purr that Barris felt in his bones. Then, in a move that sent half the class scrambling backward, it began to climb the bars of the cage. "Melissa!" Barris shouted, but she remained perfectly still as the cub, now eye level with her, extended its massive head through the bars. What happened next would be talked about in academy halls for generations to come. The cub, this creature bred by evolution to be the perfect killer, gently climbed onto Melissa's shoulder and began to purr, a sound like distant thunder mixed with contentment. Melissa's smile widened as she slowly reached up to scratch behind the cub's ear ridges, exactly where Barris had seen Mother Vorthak groom their young in nature documentaries. "You see," she said to the class, her voice filled with quiet wonder, "every species in the galaxy has figured out war. But humans, we've also figured out something else. We've figured out that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is show someone you're not afraid of them, and sometimes that's exactly what they need to see." The second cub had joined its sibling, both now draped across Melissa's shoulders like the galaxy's most dangerous living stoles, their purrs harmonizing in a sound of perfect peace. Instructor Veltar stared at her datapad in disbelief. Their stress levels have dropped to nearly 0 in 12 minutes. This should be impossible. Barris found himself stepping forward, his initial terror replaced by awe. "How did you know they wouldn't hurt you?" Melissa looked at him, her eyes twinkling with that peculiar human mischief. "I didn't, but I knew something else. They were just babies, scared and alone. And no matter what species you are, sometimes all you need is someone willing to sit with you and share their lunch." As the other cadets slowly gathered around, watching in amazement as the extinction-level threat snapped contentedly on the human shoulders, Barris began to understand why humans had become the galaxy's most sought-after diplomats. Despite being one of the youngest species in the Galactic Council, they didn't just see monsters or allies. They saw people, and sometimes that made all the difference.